systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, Ship It Nation YouTube station? We're back with my guy Matt, like I am every Monday throughout the MLB season here. Excited to be back with you talking baseball, talking Dodgers, Coors Field again, which, hey, 4-game series they blessed us with. So you don't just get the Dodgers over the weekend. You do get them here on this Monday slate. Definitely going to be the talking point, as Coors Field typically is on any given baseball slate, but especially here tonight where offense feels pretty weak outside of obviously the Dodgers in Coors Field there. Pitching wise, fairly watered down, I would say, outside of maybe one or two guys in general. So pretty clear cut on what seems to be what the field's going to be doing, at least majority of the field. So we'll do our best to navigate through that, talk through it with you here. But Matt, how was your weekend? Happy Monday, brother. Excited to talk baseball with you.
Weekend was good, man. Actually took a little road trip with the fam. Went down to Columbus, which is just a couple hours south of here. So, yeah, had a fun weekend. Happy to be back at it today, though, talking some ball with you. Fun Monday night slate. Obviously, we got this early start with 3 games starting at 6:40 or 6:45. So, fun little element to this slate. Obviously, NBA playoffs going on right now, so that's fun. And yeah, man, was definitely disappointed when I opened this slate up and saw that the Dodgers were still in Coors. Like, just didn't love seeing it. You know, you could obviously play it both ways. They're going to get a ton of ownership, so it opens up the field. I was just kind of ready to be done with this series, but it is what it is. We get one more day of it. Haven't even looked at tomorrow's schedule yet, so hopefully Colorado's on the road.
They're not. We get the Padres coming to town there, so should be should be a fun week of talking baseball here. But hey, everybody has the same deck of cards to play with here. It's right, just like a chess master. Everyone has the same chessboard in front of them. There's levels to the game, same thing in poker, etc. So we'll do our best to kind of navigate it right the best we can. Everybody sees the same thing, at least going into the slate. Now, if that comes to fruition, we'll see. I was dead wrong. Well, I don't say I was dead wrong. I think I was pretty spot on Friday in terms of how I was going to play and how the field was going to play. The field won because it was the value White Sox with the Dodgers, right? Surprise, surprise, what optimizer we're spitting out. Very similar situation here tonight. So if that wins, usually I'm not going to win a bunch of money just because I don't play the same way everybody else plays. Baseball is already a hard enough game. It's already super high variant. But again, it does get tricky. So we'll do our best to break it down here. We got a bunch of regulars here in the chat with some new folks. Clint Wood out here, wins a lot. My Lanes, Avery, Danny, Taco Todd, Gangrene, Warren Tyler, our guy Stoner tuning in here. Little bong rips out there in Garden City, Colorado. Flip to Flop. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton here. Matt, I'm going to go ahead and pull our partner SaberSim up on the screen. Voila. Go ahead and hide this. I got it sorted. I did a dry run, average of projections. Just ran 150 teams, just kind of see what the optimizers are kind of spitting out. No surprise. It's Dylan Cease, Dodgers, and Blue Jays. So pairing Cease up with some of those Blue Jays bats, which we're obviously going to talk about there. And then obviously Dylan Cease, highest price guy up on the board, gets that strikeout happy Angels matchup. So let's talk pitching here, 8K and above. You got Nola down there at 8,200. He's looked pretty good to start the year here. He's definitely going to get ownership, probably going to be up there at top 3 on the slate, maybe behind Cease and Detmers, a guy we're going to talk about later. Can't say much about him. Bryce Elder, 8,200, not going to get much ownership. He's been really, really good. Kind of pitching over his head in terms of strikeout potential from the career numbers. Maybe he's made a change. Maybe he hasn't, but he's 8,200 there. Emerson Hancock, that pitcher's ballpark, and the strikeout happy A's in town out there in Seattle. He seems really, really good to me. I like him quite a bit. Kyle Bradish, Lugo, and Cease up at the top, 86 to 9,800. What's your favorite here? How you kind of navigating this quote unquote top tier, if you will, with this 8-game slate ahead?
Yeah, I do think that it's definitely the type of slate where like you could poke holes in all these guys. I think Cease is the top dog. 9,800 is expensive. Like he's the most expensive and going to be the highest owned. He's not consistent enough where I think you have to play him, but he's got the highest upside on the slate. So projects the best. I think he's the deserved number one. After that, I don't know. I personally like Hancock the best at 8,500 in this ballpark, in this strikeout heavy matchup. I feel better about him than I do Nola, but I could understand playing Nola in this spot at that price point. I could understand playing Lugo. He's pricey. He's been good. I wrote this in the slate plan. I think that game is kind of a true both sides, or where I could get on board with Lugo and the Baltimore offense, which we'll obviously get to. But yeah, I think I'm out on Elder here. He's just too pricey for the matchup. I've been impressed by his start to the season, so probably I'm not going to be stacking Washington against him, but I doubt I use him at that price point. I think it's Cease, Hancock, Lugo, Nola. I think Bradish is probably also too expensive, but you're kind of dealing with that all over the slate. I don't love the pitching options, which is why Cease is going to be really, really highly owned.
Yeah, pitching's pretty gross here. I'll start with Dylan Cease. I think if you had to have a guy on paper who has the highest ceiling, it's Dylan Cease, right? But we don't know what Dylan Cease we're going to get. Dylan Cease is shaky start to start regardless of the matchup. It's more of just the Dylan Cease thing. He can go out here and easily walk 5 of these Angels, 6 of these Angels, right, and get blown up. The Angels have been hitting. They've been solid. I get it. And the Blue Jays, if Cease struggles at all, the Blue Jays have arguably the best pen in baseball, at least to start the year. They're sitting right there at second best, but behind the Orioles to start the year here. So Cease is fine. I get it. But highest priced, highest owned in Anaheim, where it's fairly decent hitting conditions out there as well, I think he's fine. It's just it's very tough for me because the Angels offense is actually pretty patient in general. If you look at it as a team, a 12% walk rate on the season against right-handed pitching, when Dylan Cease already has a 13% walk rate over the last month to both sides of the plate, right? So you can definitely see a case where Dylan Cease can easily pitch himself out of his own game here. Now, obviously, the strikeouts are still there. I get it. So Cease, on paper, SP1 on the slate. But for me, in tournaments, I think Hancock's a really, really good play. He's my favorite pitcher on the slate. When you account for ownership, you account for salary, everything, the ballpark, everything there. So I love Hancock. I'm with you there. Lugo, I think, is a great pivot off of Dylan Cease. He's overpriced, but majority of these guys, you can argue everyone pretty much on the slate outside of some of these guys we're going to talk about in the cheap tier are overpriced in the slate, right? So pricing doesn't really matter. I look at ownership. I look at the matchup here. He's still got strikeouts. The Orioles have been miserable to start the year. I do worry that ballpark there, Kauffman Stadium, does have 10 to 15 mile an hour winds blowing out the duration of that game, which does scare me a little bit here. But Lugo, for the most part, is a pretty solid pitcher. Does struggle with some fly ball concerns to those lefties there, which be interesting to see what this Orioles lineup's going to be. I'm assuming Gunner's obviously going to be in there. Basallo, Taveras will probably hit from the left side if he cracks that lineup. Beavers, Cowser. So they do have some lefties to throw at Seth Lugo there. But in terms of upside as a pivot up in this top tier, I think Lugo. I don't really like Bradish much here, personally myself. Casey's been miserable to start the year, so you can make the case for Bradish there. But I'd rather just get more Hancock in that range there. So I'm with you there too. I'm out on Elder. I'm never been an Elder guy. I mean, this dude's at what 8,200, has a 3.5K prop. I get it. It's heavy juice to the over there, but I mean, I just don't think this dude's a great strikeout pitcher. Now he could probably get you a quality start, go long there. Angels bats obviously are going to be, or the Braves bats are obviously going to be a talking point on the slate. He should have run support. So I get it. Nola, I think, is fine. The wind should help Nola as well there in Wrigley with the wind blowing in there. I want to see how many lefties that Chicago's going to throw at Nola here. We obviously know Nola's great against righties, struggles very, very bad against left-handed hitters, but Ian Happ, Ballesteros, PCA, who's been ice cold to start the year, and Michael Busch. So he's still going to get 6 righties where he has a 31% K rate. It's just, I don't know. It's really Hancock is the only guy I'm kind of really sold on in this top tier. It's pretty gross in general. If you had to pick a couple guys up here, what would kind of be your ranking, Matt, in this top tier?
I'm with you like all over this. Like Cease is obviously the guy with the highest upside, but you never know what Cease you're gonna get, and you're playing into ownership and an expensive price tag. So I'm gonna have Hancock 1 with you. After that, my big problem with putting someone else over Cease is there's just no one else I like. So it's Cease for me, but I don't think you have to spend up. Like I think you can, pick another guy that's cheaper, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or like right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There. So we'll I think for me it'd be Hancock number 1 for sure. I think Lugo, because I do think the Baltimore Bats get a little ownership there as well. So I wouldn't mind Lugo as just kind of a pivot off of Cease, and then Cease obviously 3. If you had to pick a 4th, it would probably be Elder over Nola for me. Just playing in ownership, same exact price point. Both have issues there, but yeah, for me it's really Hancock's my favorite by far up there. And then let's go down below 8K where we got to talk about Reed Detmers, right? Reed Detmers chalk. Cease Detmers is probably the cash game pairing. That's what everyone's going to do. They're going to go Dylan Cease, Reed Detmers, Dodgers, Blue Jays bats because Blue Jays are free on offense. Obviously, the Dodgers, 7 implied run total in Coors Field. No surprise. Best offense, best hitting environment in all of baseball. So how do you do that? You play a Reed Detmers who has shown great stuff all year. I was on him in his start against the Yankees, and he absolutely mowed them down. So Detmers, obviously, I mean, there's not much to say. Ownership is the only issue there that you can kind of start talking about. But again, we're starved for pitching on the slate. Blue Jays, they haven't struck out a lot against left-handed pitching, but I mean, the team's hitting for an 0.51 ISO. Their WOBA was not great. They do have some good guys in there that do walk a lot. Detmers going to keep the ball on the ground for the most part there. Not really going to get hit hard much. So I get it, right? But there is some other guys down here I think that are interesting. Max Meyer up at the top, I think he's interesting. Jesse Schulten should have right in line with majority of the rest of the slate in terms of pitch counts there. He was really good in his last start in terms of relief there. The Reds strike out a ton. So I don't mind Jesse Schulten's there, who should have about an 85 pitch limit somewhere in there, which is fine for his price point. And then I want to talk about JT Ginn, direct pivot right off of Reed Detmers. We know what Ginn struggles with. He struggles with lefties. The Mariners are going to throw some lefties at him, but again, it's that ballpark. It's the direct pivot there. So what do you see down here below 8K? I threw a couple names out. What's kind of your favorite? What's your rankings? What are you looking at here?
Yeah, like on paper, it's clearly Detmers. And I agree. Like Jake Swale says, Detmers chalk is gross, but I feel like that's just the DFS sentiment on whoever's chalky that night, unless they're like really, really good. And Detmers is good. He's certainly not like an ace. He's just too cheap for his talent and how he's pitched so far this season. His underlying numbers are really good. His strikeout numbers are good. He's just too cheap here. So yeah, there's a lot to like about him here. You talk for a second. Sorry about the baby in the background.
Oh no, you're good. Dad life is getting the best of the best of Matt over there. Yeah, I mean Detmers. The argument going against him is the ownership, right? But I mean, we just made points against every pitcher really on the slate, so you're still going to have to play a guy. I think playing Detmers differently than what the field's going to do. Play Detmers without Cease or without a guy like Aaron Nola, right? Play Detmers with a guy like Kyle Bradish or Emerson Hancock, right? Definitely Kyle Bradish or Seth Lugo, right? You get a similar roster construction, 9,800 and 9,600 between Cease and Lugo. Who knows? Cease could walk himself right out of this game. You get Seth Lugo, who, yeah, median projections-wise, is a terrible play, 1-for-1 on paper, right? But at the end of the day, projections don't mean everything in baseball, right? We play this game all the time. We see these guys fail in great matchups, et cetera, everything. So if you want to play differently, play Detmers without Dylan Cease and do a different roster construction. Or like I said, maybe you go a Detmers and nobody above 8K, and you go like a Max Meyer or a Jesse Schultens, something like that. You get a completely different roster construction on what the field's doing. So I can't really say Detmers and Hancock by far and away are my two favorite pitchers on the slate in terms of K props. Looking at them as well, Detmers 5.5 K prop, heavy juice to the over, which is in line with the best on the slate there. So I like him a ton. JT Ginn, I do think is interesting as a pivot there. Ginn's still sitting at a 4.5 K prop, juice to the over. The ballpark boost is going to help him out as well, getting away from Sacramento and pitching out there in Seattle, which obviously we love to play pitchers out there. Seattle hasn't been great to impress me either. That's another case where you can play both sides, definitely in tournaments. But if you are looking for a pivot, I think JT Ginn's fairly interesting. And then I like those other guys up at the top, Max Meyer, Jesse Schultens are kind of the main guys I'm looking at. But what do you see here?
No, yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I like those guys certainly, especially because like the pitching that does look good on this slate comes with flaws. So like Detmer is going to be really highly owned, but that's mostly because of his price tag. Like Toronto, I don't think as a team we're going to be picking on all season. They haven't started out great, but they absolutely annihilated Ryan Nelson yesterday. I think the first 8 guys got on base in that game for them. He was out of that game like in the first inning, I believe. Maybe that gets them going. Reed Detmer certainly isn't infallible to getting hit. So all of a sudden, we talked about it with Cease. We're talking about it with Detmers. All of a sudden, if this game is a little bit more offensive-minded than I think the field thinks, then the other pitchers start to look better just naturally. Your Ginn point makes sense. He's cheap. Massive ballpark upgrade. I'm struggling with Schultens here. Like, I think he's definitely in play, no doubt about it. We saw Bailey Ober dominate this Reds team yesterday. I'm also not completely buying what he's selling. I like how the Reds got going late yesterday, and I think they're in play as a stack. But if you're not playing them as a stack, I think he's definitely in play. And then Robleski, like, I'm not on him. I don't like him. I don't want to play him. But he's so cheap, and this Colorado team has just been so god-awful at home against left-handed pitching. It's hard to not at least have him in the pool. So I think all these guys look like reasonable pivots off of Detmers, who looks the best on paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's really gross in general. The pitching slate here is absolutely atrocious, and that's why maybe it's probably just the best to play Cease and Detmers. But when the pitching and when we poke holes in those guys, even this is where my kind of tournament brain comes into play and just says, okay, if pitching is gross for everybody, well, then we're probably going to even see higher condensed ownership on the two quote unquote guys that feel like the best. So now you have inflated ownership, and you have ownership on some of these other guys, these secondary options, guys like Hancock, Aaron Nola, Bradish, Elder, these other guys that are getting played a little bit, but nothing crazy. I think you see those guys come down, and those other guys, Cease and Detmers in particular, kind of steam up even higher, right? So if that's the case, I mean, there's still 16 pitchers on this slate. We poked holes in every one of them on the slate, right? So if that's the case, taking shots on guys like a Lugo who's overpriced, a Kyle Bradish who's overpriced, a Bryce Elder who's overpriced, a Max Meyer pitching in that ballpark there in Miami, which we obviously love to target. The Cardinals are an up and on offense in general. Burned a lot of people yesterday, obviously. Burned a lot of people a lot of times so far in the slate. They're going to be an offense that a lot of times we're going to pick on with pitchers. Max Meyer is nothing crazy by any means, but he's 7,600. Not many people are playing him. Jesse Schultens, looking at this lineup that the Reds threw out, it's a struggle for me because, I mean, the dude has a 13% K rate to right-handed pitcher or right-handed hitters. Obviously, it's a very, very limited sample. We don't have a lot of metrics on this guy. Between this year and last year, but on Schultens, he's kind of sitting around above league average, right around 25% K rate to both sides of the plate. The Reds threw out 7 righties against him as well, which obviously have kind of tattooed him a little bit to start the year there. So I'm with you there, but it's just we're starved for pitching. So Yeah, Robleski, I think is fine. The Rockies have just absolutely have been miserable. But do I want to throw a pitcher who I don't really believe in a lot and then add in the Coors Field Park as well? I don't think so. For me, say a lot to say. Hancock's my favorite. Detmers is my second favorite. Dylan Cease, probably just because of the nature of the pitching slate, probably slots in third. I'll go Bradish, Lugo, Meyer, Ginn. Those are kind of the main guys I'm looking at, but it's very gross. What do you see here?
Yeah, I think you could really order them like however, and I wouldn't have that big of an argument with you. Man, it's tough because like I don't particularly like any of them, but I don't dislike any of them, especially in the context of like this particular slate. So I'll say Detmers one there. Man, like I get Seattle, I get playing Seattle here, but I get playing Ginn, so I'll go Ginn here too. Same thing with Robleski. Like I'm not going to play him, but I understand the sentiment of playing him, so he'd be 3. I'm just not buying what Schultens is selling. His expected numbers are far worse than his actual numbers. I kind of like Cincy in this spot, so I'm lower on him, I think, than you are, but it's not like you. Well, you just went over how you didn't really like him because of all the righties they're throwing out. So it seems like we're both kind of off him. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I don't think I'd want, if I were playing 150, I wouldn't be crossing guys out. But if I were playing even like 20 lineups, I think I'd probably still want to keep my pitching pool kind of limited and just like plant my flag, so to speak, on certain guys.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Schultz does have a 4.5 K prop, juice to the over. It's more juice to the under, but kind of right there in line with Ginn. I'd just rather side with Ginn, in my opinion here. I do want to hit on our guy Danny here, asking if the core comes with ownership as well. I'm going to go ahead and show you here. So if you go to shipitnation.com, go to join the nation here. It shows you everything. So if you have never signed up at Ship It Nation yet, trial's your best option here. Comes with all of this for all sports. If you already have used this and you've signed up before and you just want baseball, clicking over to single sport, going to MLB, this shows you everything here. MLB plus optimizer, you get all of this. Ownership projections, all of our stone, which we're going to showcase here in a second. Saber Sim with ability to build up 150 lineups and late swap for $49 a month. So cheapest all-in rate in the industry. You can't even go to SaberSim and get SaberSim alone by itself for less than $100. So if you want that, if you want all of our sports, everything we have to offer with an optimizer, starter's your best pack. $139 a month. You get all of this, and it breaks it all down for you. So it's very easily on the site if you want to go there and check it out. Everything's shows you exactly what you get. There's no surprises in terms of that. So check over there, Danny. It will help you out, but the best would be to do the trial for $19 if you have not checked us out over at shipitnation.com. Yeah, pitching's gross, kind of the sentiment. Let's jump over and talk hitting, see if we can't find some offensive spots here to target. And I won't throw anything off the table with stacking against any of these pitchers on this slate, regardless of who they are or who the teams are. Just that's kind of the slate we have. This is a great MME slate, in my opinion. Just because there's so many unknowns, right? We just talked through the pitchers. Neither of us really liked anyone outside of Emerson Hancock for the most part, Detmers, but Detmers is coming with ownership. Cease is coming with massive ownership. That's definitely the cash game pairing. So let's see if we can't find some avenues here in terms of offense. Obviously, we're going to talk about Coors Field later, but first game to kick us off here, Jesse Schultens, Rhett Lauder on the mound here. Reds, Rays. I mean, not a great game from an offensive standpoint here, but decent total in this one. They're back at their home park, which isn't a great hitter's park either in the Rays. What do you see here, Reds and Rays?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like on paper, this doesn't look like a good offensive spot, but I think you can lean into the Reds' upside just in general here and the lack of ownership. They're going to be very low owned. They wouldn't really be owned anyways, but then you throw in they're on the same slate as the Dodgers and Coors. They're going to be minuscule owned. Ellie over 6K, going to be really low owned. He's got plenty of upside no matter where they're playing. I think playing Cincy just kind of plays into the unknown of Schultens. And in large field tournaments, I think that there's a path for them to get there. Smaller field stuff, a little bit hard to plant your flag there, just given the nature of this slate. But I think they're one of many offenses that look pretty good from a contrarian standpoint. And I think you can make the same case for Tampa here.
Yeah, I don't love the park, but again, I'm looking for teams outside of obviously Coors Field, which we're going to talk about, and then probably the Braves and the Blue Jays, which everyone really wants to go to the Blue Jays for sure, just because of their price points, and they're out there in Anaheim facing a pitcher who I don't really like to attack. So that's an interesting place to navigate there. It's just mainly their prices are driving their ownership as secondary stacks to go with the Dodgers, which everyone wants to play. But I think the Rays are really interesting here. Both sides of this game actually are interesting to me. Schulten's, I can poke holes. He struggled big time to start the year against right-handed pitching. And then you add in the bullpens, which I think is a huge, huge thing to talk about, especially on a slate like this, where we're looking for offenses that can mitigate the Dodgers, what the Dodgers are going to do or potentially do. You look at the Rays, third worst bullpen in baseball in terms of xFIP, tied for second worst behind Chicago. And then you look at Cincinnati, sixth worst in terms of xFIP. So both bullpens are not good. You look at how the bullpens have been doing over the weekend in terms of their usage. Cincinnati used 4 of their relievers yesterday, 5 on Saturday, 4 again on Friday. They're pretty taxed in general. And then you look at the Tampa bullpen, and it's more of the same, right? So both bullpens are not good. They're taxed, especially Tampa's bullpen. I mean, 60, 53, 45, 31 pitches from 4 of their guys in that bullpen. So I'm in on offense, I think, more so than pitching in this game. And these teams are going to be unowned, and I think these guys are good separators in general. So you want righties against Schulten's. Obviously, the Reds see that as well. And you got Ellie De La Cruz, or elite spend up off of those Dodgers at similar price points there. So we always know he can steal 2 or 3 bases in a game, let alone the upside that he brings. So I like them. I like the offense in this game actually more than I originally thought coming in. Ballpark sucks, I get it, but both bullpens are bad. I don't believe in either of these starters, so that's a case to stack them up. I don't really have individual target players on either team. I'm just stacking it up and looking for offense. So I like offense quite a bit in that one overall.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's not like one offs.
Yeah, I would. It's more of a stack for me, just because I don't see a glaring specific target. Obviously, you want lefties against Louder, so Jonathan Aranda, Seti Mullins, right, come to the top of mind for the Rays. But again, with the added bullpen, right, they're going to be both sides. So it's just a full stack, not getting hung up on, oh, I left this guy out or I need to include this guy. It's just more of a full stack. Chandler Simpson, another speedster, obviously can steal a bunch of bases there. So yeah, I like offense in that one a decent amount, more than I thought coming in. Next spot, Cardinals, Marlins. Ballpark sucks again here. Max Meyer have a decent amount of interest in pitching from a pitching perspective on him, just due to the ballpark and the lack of pitching options we have down there outside of Detmers in that price tier. McGreevy, not a guy I like. I don't think he's good. I think the Marlins are pretty sneaky here, even in this ballpark. They score runs. They scored runs yesterday. I don't think we're going to see a ton of home runs in that. So you don't need that, though. Guys like Jacob Marcy, Kyle Stowers back in this lineup helps. Otto Lopez at shortstop at 4,200 never gets played, always has upside. Liam Hicks has been absolutely mashing. His price is tough to play. All these Marlins, when you look at them, they seem overpriced, but they don't strike out. They're a contact-heavy team. They put the ball in play. We know the Cardinals bullpen is terrible. McGreevy's terrible, so I'm in on the Marlins on this one. Not much interest myself in the Cardinals. Weatherholt, I think, is a fine one-off. Burleson, but those guys are pricey. Jordan Walker, I think, would probably be my favorite just due to the outfield eligibility, and 4,600 isn't quite top tier compared to like a Burleson or a Weatherholt or something like that. But what do you see here, Marlins and Cardinals?
Yeah, we're on the exact same page again. I think the Marlins are real sneaky here. I wrote in the slate plan, like, yeah, if the Dodgers, like the Marlins upside here can't match the Dodgers in Coors if the Dodgers go off. But you could say that about damn near every other team on this slate. So, like, if you're not playing the Dodgers, I think the Marlins are a totally reasonable stack to lean into. McGreevy stinks. This is a guy whose numbers, who's clearly, due for some negative regression in the, it might not be tonight, but it certainly could be. His underlying numbers just simply aren't good. The Marlins have been good against right-handed pitching. You mentioned they don't strike out. They steal a ton of bases. So you throw that upside in there. They're not going to be owned. I like them a lot here. I think they're definitely a stack you can play. Again, their upside here won't match the Dodgers, but you could say that about basically every other team on the slate. So I think you can play them with the Dodgers. I think you can play them without them. The Marlins look good here. I'm with you on St. Louis. Meyer has been more solid than spectacular, and he's been, to me, a little bit underwhelming, but I certainly still respect him enough where I'm not looking to stack a team like St. Louis against him on this slate. It's the Miami side for me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You add in the Cardinals bullpen being 5th worst in baseball, plus they're taxed. I mean, every guy in this rotation in their bullpen has thrown at least 24 pitches in the last 3 days, top end approaching 40, right? So those guys are probably out due to unless necessity. So you're going to get a tired bullpen, which is not a good bullpen, and a team like the Marlins who are contact heavy will run and steal bases. So yeah, sign me up. I like the Marlins a lot here on this slate, and no ownership to come with it. So yeah, sign me up. Tournaments, I love the Marlins there. Braves, Nationals, if there is a quote-unquote Dodgers pivot, this is where everyone's going to run to Atlanta, facing Jake Irvin. We've picked on Jake Irvin every single time. Nationals bullpen is terrible as well. Braves offense on paper is really good. They've been good to start the year. I think there is some pinch hit concerns in this lineup a little bit, but not too much to worry about in general. Braves on paper seem like the best quote-unquote pivot off the Dodgers, but it's not going to be sneaky. This is where everyone's running. Not to say it's crazy because the Dodgers ownership is going to be so far ahead of everyone else on the slate. I'm in on the Braves. I like the Braves quite a bit. What do you see here? Nationals and Braves.
Yeah, the Braves are like the other team that probably has the upside to match the Dodgers in this spot. So if you want to play them over the Dodgers, I get it. I think the ownership will be there. They'll be the second highest owned team on the slate, but they should be. Jake Irvin, obviously you can pick on him, and the Braves offense has been very good to start the season, and that's no surprise. Up and down, they've got a good lineup with power. So I could totally see leaning into the Braves here. I don't think you're going to get an owner. The only ownership discount you'll get is from the Dodgers being in Coors, but they'll still be owned. So know that they're still a great play.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Not much to say. It's not going to be sneaky by any means, but again, pretty much everything. Ownership really doesn't matter on anything on the slate outside of the Dodgers, right? So Jake Irvin, a guy you want to pick on. Lefty bats is what you want. Dom Smith, Olsen, Baldwin, Albies would be the main guys I'd look at. Yastrzemski and Harris would be next, but I'm not a big Michael Harris guy. But yeah, there's a lot of upside in this lineup. Can't fault anyone. Full 9 at bats, bad bullpen as well. So all things point to there. I think the Nationals are fairly sneaky as well. I'm not a believer in Bryce Elder. It's probably not a spot to pick on him, but if you wanted a James Wood, who's one of the hottest hitters in baseball, 6,200, nobody's playing that price point when it got guys like Kyle Tucker at the same place. CJ Abrams always has the threat to steal anytime he's on base. I get it. He's 5,900, but James Wood, CJ Abrams, Luis Garcia has been really, really good in general. He's just a guy that I always love. He's always cheap. Nobody ever plays him. I get it. It's first base, and first base is a pristine position, right? Guys like Freddie Freeman, obviously Matt Olson, right? Otani, things like that. But a guy like Luis Garcia, 3,400, hitting second. I don't hate that. Dalen Lyle has been solid. So it'd be more the top 5 guys for the Nationals that I'm looking at. But you do get 2 cheap guys there at the back, $2,500 catcher. Second base is a shitty position. Nunez can steal bases. So Nationals do have some upside here. The issue is that the Braves bullpen's been really good. So I'm not going to full stack the Nationals. But James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Luis Garcia, those guys have tons of upside, I think, here in chalkier teams. Next game on the slate, Orioles, Royals, Kauffman Stadium. Wind's going to be blowing out here almost 15 miles an hour. This park is going to play very hitter-friendly with the new fence there where they didn't move it in. It's not going to be super warm, but in terms of hitting environments, this is right up there with the best in the slate in regard to Coors Field, just due to that stadium. Lugo, Bradish, 2 arms that I think you could play, but 2 arms you can also stack against here. When you add in the bullpen, I lean the Royals a little bit more. Royals are, the Orioles bats. Royals bullpen 7th worst in baseball in terms of xFIP to start the year. Baltimore actually leads the league in terms of xFIP. So tougher for me to get on the Royals, and they've been really bad. Yeah, you can always play a Bobby Witt, a Vinny P. He's been terrible, but he's fine. Carter Jensen would be my favorite play, I think. Just a lefty that mashes, or a Michael Massey, 2,400, where you don't have to save salary. But Orioles are more interesting for me from a DFS side. But what do you see here?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, this is a classic play both sides spot because you've got really good hitting weather here. 2 pitchers that are good. Certainly Lugo is better than Bradish, but 2 pitchers that if they don't have their best stuff can certainly give up power. So, like, if the weather weren't really hitter conducive here, I might be backing off this game a little bit more, but it is. So I think like Lugo and the Orioles, I could see leaning into Lugo. I could see leaning into the Orioles, lefty power here, or just their power in general. Their lineup sets up really well against right-handed pitching. So I think they've got real upside in this spot. And then Lugo himself, we talked about how weak the pitching options were tonight. So he certainly has a role on the slate as well. It's weird. I feel like I like both Lugo and the Orioles more than I like the Royals and Bradish. KC and Baltimore aren't really doing it for me here, or KC and Bradish. I think I like the Royals a little bit more than I do Bradish just because of the weather, but they've been so uninspiring. This ballpark should play a lot more hitter-friendly this season, so I don't know. I could see playing either side of this game. Baltimore looks more appealing just because of their upside. I think that, like, Kansas City scores 4 or 5 runs more often than Baltimore does in this spot, but I think Baltimore scores like 7, 8 runs more than Kansas City does in this spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Plus, you get the added bullpen metrics, right? We have a decent enough sample to rely on, and Baltimore's been really, really good. I mean, 2.89 xFIP on the year, which is by far and away, it's them and Toronto, even ahead of San Diego. But it's really San Diego, Toronto, Baltimore, far and away the best bullpen metrics to start the year. Under a 1 home run per 9 for the Baltimore bullpen. K per 9 sitting over 11. So it's just going to be really tough for the Royals to get there, in my opinion. I would like the Carter Jensen, like I said, I think is good. Just the dude is absolutely mashed right-handed pitching to start the year. Outside of that, nobody else on this team has really hit, regardless of the handedness. So Carter Jensen, by far and away, my favorite play. Like I said, you don't really want to glaringly pick on Seth Lugo, but I mean, if you expand the lens to this year and last year, I mean, lefty power or lefty bats in general have given Lugo fits. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lefties projected in here. I don't see a confirmed lineup yet. Maybe I missed it, but Gunnar, Basallo, Taveras, Beavers, Cowser, and then you got Jeremiah Jackson, who's red hot right now, and Pete Alonso, Taylor Ward. So yeah, I'm in on the Orioles more so than the Royals in general. I like the Orioles here. Phillies, Cubs, Colin Ray, Aaron Nola. Colin Ray, kind of just a contact guy in general, not really a big strikeout guy. Phillies, good lineup. Weather here in Wrigley, not conducive to hitting, but again, there's just not great spots on the slate outside of Coors Field, which obviously everyone wants to play. But in terms of this game, 50 degrees in Wrigley, some slight wind blowing out there, but not a great hitting environment. What do you see here? Nola, Ray, Cubs, Phillies.
Yeah, so I think this is definitely one where not much looks appealing, but Philly is certainly much better as an offense than Ray is himself. So like leaning into just how talented Philly is in play. They're expensive, hard to prioritize them over the Dodgers, the Braves, but the field isn't going to prioritize them either. And it's baseball, and their offense still has a ton of upside. So that's the case in this game. The Cubs, I don't think Nola's great anymore, but with the weather here, I don't really like them as much as I would the Phillies in tournaments. Mostly this is just a stay away spot from all sides, though.
Yeah, stay away spot for me on all sides, too. I'm with you there. Two of the top 10 bullpens in the league here in the Cubs and the Phillies. Not great hitting environment. Just not a spot. Obviously, you can always play Harper. You can always play Schwarber, Bush. Ian Happ would probably be my favorite bat in general from this game. He's just been solid. Doesn't really strike out. Can get you some stolen bases. Occasionally hit you a home run or two. So yeah, that's my kind of preferred spot. I do want to hit on our friend here, Fanatic, in the chat saying these dudes are trying to put you on trash. Well, let me just tell you here. Go play Dylan Cease. Go play Reed Detmers. Stack the Dodgers and fill it in with cheap Blue Jays. And hold hands with everyone else. We're trying to make money. We're trying to win. We're not trying to min cash, right? We're trying to ship tournaments, right? Up at the top of the leaderboard there. So, hey, there's plenty of other shows across the industry. Go out there and check those out. Our show could have been done before we even jumped on. We could have typed in the chat, play the Dodgers, play Cease, play Detmers, and print your money, right? We're trying to find angles to attack on a slate where we're all playing tournaments, right? We're not playing cash games. So did want to just note that, but make sure you hit that like button on the way out before you leave. Next game we have to talk about, 152% combined ownership on a stack. I don't think I've ever seen that in MLB. When I ran the dry run, I got 99% Dodger stacks. Obviously, Dodgers, highest likelihood to score the most amount of runs. They're in the fourth day of facing the Rockies in Coors Field. The Rockies pitching staff's not great. We got Jose Quintana starting for us. Rockies bullpen's ass. I mean, Dodgers, obviously, not much to say. Stack them up, play them all. It's just, I don't. What do you want to say here? Dodgers, Rockies, Coors Field.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly nothing to say. I'm with you. Like, they're obviously the top stack on the board. Quintana's been a good pitcher throughout his career. He's not a gas can that you have to stack against every time he's on a slate, but this Dodgers lineup is obviously insane. Everyone knows it. They're in Coors against a mediocre lefty. If you're not playing them, it should be in large part due to ownership. So I get that. It's baseball. Weird things play out. If you give me the Dodgers or the field, I'm going to take the field every slate. Tonight's no exception. It's just a matter of it's not that easy. Like, you still got to get the top stack right. So I don't know. Like, they're just, again, I've said more than I probably needed to here. They're the top stack by a mile. If you're not playing them, it's due to ownership, and that's totally valid, especially in MLB. In all DFS, it's valid, especially in a sport like MLB.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm definitely on. This is probably the most interest I've had all season for Coors Field. Quintana's just been absolutely miserable to start the year. Offense is weak on the slate. I already don't like Cease much at the top. There's enough low-owned arms I think you can get differently, and just don't play the cheap Toronto bats that everyone is going to play with the Dodgers. So, I mean, it's not much more to say. Dodgers, I mean, I'm more in on the Dodgers here than I have been in any of these Coors slates or when the Yankees were mega chalk. Like, this is the best spot, in my opinion, that I feel the best about here, just because I think I can make pivots in other spots in terms of different roster construction than what the field. I will say, though, the Rockies bullpen's been damn good. I mean, 24th in terms of xFIP, which is 6th best in the league. They've been a lot better. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, if they jump on Quintana for 6 in the first inning or 7 or whatever, like, yeah. But, yeah, I think I said enough there in terms of the Dodgers. Don't need us to tell you. Shout out to our guy in the chat saying these guys are trying to put you on trash. Well, there you go. Play the Dodgers and print your money at the end of the night. Thank us later. On the Rockies side, though, Jordan Beck, Goodman, I mean, some one-off power against Robleski. I don't think it's the worst play, but yeah, it's definitely Dodgers are bust in this game. I do have a little bit more interest in some of the Rockies. Just more mini stacks. I know they've been miserable to start the year against left-handed pitching, but if you look at last year, they were fairly serviceable against lefties. Goodman smashed, Beck's been solid. Brent Doyle has power. Tovar. I mean, they're not the worst plays, but anything to add on the Rocky side?
No, I think they're definitely in play here. Oh man, I'd like them more. Real quick, do you know what their ISO is? We kind of talked about this earlier, but I won't even ask you. They have a 0 ISO at home against left-handed pitching so far this year. They do not have one extra base hit. That's sad. Now, it's like 60 plate appearances or something like that. So you take that with a large grain of salt, and maybe the numbers even out. Baseball is a big numbers sport. Like, they're certainly not going to finish with a 0 ISO, with those numbers all year. So, yeah, I think that the Rockies certainly have a role on the slate. Robleski is a bad spot for him. He's been okay so far. He's been pretty good, but he doesn't strike anyone out. You're playing to contacting Coors. The Rockies could easily get to him, I think.
Yeah, I just think there's, this significant of an ownership gap. 18% combined stack ownership on the Rockies and 153 on the Dodgers. We're playing a game a lot. We're playing a game of averages and a game of leverage. You're telling me there's that big of gap between these two teams on a 1-game sample in Coors Field against a guy who doesn't strike anyone out. He's got a 10% K rate. Tyler Freeman, Doyle, Goodman, Tovar, Beck. These guys can hit left-handed pitching. So, yeah, I think the Rockies are a lot more interested than what people are giving them credit for, at least ownership-wise. So, yeah, that's Coors Field. That's obviously the biggest thing to get right, as it is almost any time it's on the slate. But definitely tonight, I have not seen this kind of ownership on any team at Coors that we have here tonight. That just shows you the kind of slate we have. Pitching is not great. Offense is not great outside of one, maybe two spots that everybody wants to go to. So, yeah, we're trying to talk through it the best we can. Next game on the slate, Blue Jays, Angels, Detmers, Dylan Cease. The chalk pairing here of definitely cash games, probably a lot of tournament staples here is going to be Cease, Detmers, some Dodgers, and some cheap filler bats. But what do you see here? Any offense for you, Toronto and Angels?
Probably not. Like, you have two of the better pitching options today. The only reason we poked holes in them mostly is because of the ownership. So outside of that, both the pitchers look good. You could make a case because of ownership. Stacking Toronto. Again, they got going yesterday. They're crazy cheap. Detmers isn't like infallible to getting hit. So Toronto, I think, has a role on this slate. The Angels, I don't like the spot for them as much, but Cease is going to be even higher owned. So I think the offenses are in play just because of the ownership of the opposing pitchers. But on paper, it's the pitching you want.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. It's baseball. You can stack against anyone. You can play anyone on any given slate. Again, the best players in the world fail 7 out of 10 times. Talk about it all the time. It's just not a great spot for me. Vlad, Ernie Clement, those guys, but Clement's going to be super popular at his price point. Sosa, if he's in there, is going to be popular. Davis Schneider might only see 1 or 2 at bats because as soon as the righty comes in, he's getting pulled. So pinch hit concerns there. I get it. Angels bullpen's not great. Toronto's bullpen's really, really good. So less interest in attacking Dylan Cease. Obviously, it's just more of not playing Dylan Cease doesn't mean I'm going to go and stack up these Angels, but they have power anytime they're on the slate. It's just not a great spot. Add in the bullpen. You have to assume this game's going to be fairly close. So you're going to get the better bullpen arms coming out as well from both sides, but definitely Toronto. So, yeah, not a spot for offense for me, really, in that game, even though the park does play above average. Yeah, you can find an occasional home run here or there, but I'm not going to try and cherry pick it in my lineups there. Last game on the slate, Mariners, Athletics, Hancock, JT Ginn. I had interest in both these pitchers. Hancock's our number 1 rated pitcher over at Ship Nation in terms of our pitcher rankings. The A's strike out a ton, especially on the road. Not really getting to any A's here. Mariners, though, I do have some interest. Just Ginn is just absolutely atrocious against lefties. They're going to throw a bunch of lefties against him. Ginn's more of a pivot off of Detmers there with some strikeout upside. I mean, this dude, I do still think is a serviceable arm long term. Lefties is what you get. I mean, Cal Raleigh, Canzone, Rayleigh, Josh Naylor would be the main guys I'm looking at there. But what do you see here to round us out?
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Hancock a lot, so I'm not interested in the A's here. The Mariners, though. Ginn, you made the case for as a pivot off Detmers, but that's all he really is to me here. The Mariners look good. Ginn has struggled against lefties. Luke Raley is having a really good year so far. He's someone I would throw on the stack. Dom Canzone, 2 Northeast Ohio kids, so I got a little extra love in my heart for those guys. I like the Seattle lineup, and even though it's not a ballpark that we love for hitting, I made the case for the Reds earlier, and I think the Mariners fall in that boat where they're just a good offense against a pitcher who I think still has a lot of question marks, and they're not going to be owned. So, you mentioned Cal Raleigh. His price tag is the cheapest it's been in over a year. So there's a lot to like here. I think there's upside in Seattle.
Yeah, you want the lefties. I wouldn't play any of these righties. J-Rod or Rosarena are fine plays on their own and definitely in a stack. But I want the lefties mainly. So, yeah, I'm with you there. Lefty Mariners, I think they're 5-stack viable just due to the scarcity of offense we have outside of Coors Field. But more minis, power hunting. Donovan's been really good to start the year. Raleigh's way too cheap at 4,600. I think he's great. He's a direct pivot off of Will Smith, $300 cheaper, 1/6, 1/8 the ownership,
and Goodman,
and Goodman, right? So he's right there. So yeah, I'm with you there. I like the lefties for the Mariners. That's all 8 games. Very interesting slate. This is one of the trickier slates we've had in quite some time. In my opinion, obviously that's why the Dodgers ownership is far and away higher than anyone else on the slate. But I think some of these other teams might get there in tournaments. But your favorite pitching pairing, your favorite 2 stacks, and then home run call if you have one.
Yeah, so a couple of lineups came out. Well, the Mariners lineup just came out with Donovan out and Crawford leading off again. So he's going to look good. Crawford at least leading off. So I'm going to say my favorite pitching combo is Hancock and Cease. Favorite stack. Pretty sure that's what you asked me next, right? Favorite stack and then home run call.
Yeah, favorite overall stack, not including the Dodgers. Obviously, everyone knows the Dodgers. So give 2 your second and third favorite stack behind the Dodgers, obviously, and then a home run call if you have one.
I'm gonna go with that Marlins squad we talked about earlier. They've been good to me this year. I think they look really good in this spot, and they're pricey enough that they're not going to get a lot of ownership. So people just don't want to spend up in that park, and I get it for the most part. But I think this is the type of slate where you can do it. Home run call. We are going to go with, I mentioned him earlier, might have to be contrarian guy, Ellie De La Cruz going yard today.
I like that. I'm going to go with I'm going to go Hancock, Detmers. That's kind of where I like Detmers. I don't care about his ownership really there. I'll go with the Braves because you didn't mention them. I'll go with the Braves, and then I like the Marlins with you too. But I also think these Mariners are pretty interesting. These lefties here for the Mariners, I think are really interesting there. So I'll go with them. And then my home run call here, I'm going to go to Coors Field. I'm not going to go to a Dodger. I'm going to go to Jordan Beck. I expect Jordan Beck to be in there, 3,300, nice value. Doesn't really break frame. Leading off for the Rockies against a lefty in Robleski who pitches to contact. Give me some Jordan Beck to hit one over the wall. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Again, if you're not a member, shipitnation.com. Join the nation, and you can get the single sport packages there. We have MLB. We have all of the other sports as well. PGA's got the Zurich, which isn't a great tournament this week, but we have some, obviously, a bunch more majors, 3 more majors to come, a bunch of signature events. NBA playoffs going on, NHL playoffs. We got you covered for everything. Again, single sport, though, MLB only with an optimizer, $49 a month. Gets you the ability to 150 max or 150 MME in baseball. Matt, any closing remarks before we get out of here?
No, man, bunch of good spots today. I like this slate. So obviously, you know that if you're not playing the Dodgers, that you could be smoked by like real soon after that game starts. But even if you do play the Dodgers and they go off, it's going to be a tough road to the top anyways. So just know that going in.
Yeah, that's always the case, right? Anytime we have heavy ownership in Coors Field with a team like the Dodgers, you're going to have to nail all five hitters correctly, just like you do every slate, but more so in that, right? You're not going to get away with a guy who goes 1 for 3 with a walk, a double, and a run scored, right? You're probably not going to get there, right? With that. So just know that going in. Again, we talk tournaments. We talk the easiest path to the most amount of money, which is the top of the board. And that's looking at some of these other teams here. Obviously, the Dodgers on paper are the spot everybody should play. We all know that going in. It's not to say you have to avoid it. You have to play it. Obviously, it's baseball. You can do anything. But, yeah, good luck tonight in those contests. For Matt, I'm Nades. We'll see you guys next time. We're out of here. Peace.